Well, happy Friday, everybody. It's Jay Otluski over at Realty One Group, wanting to bring you the latest and greatest information about this NAR settlement and the changes to our industry. So, with 1 week remaining until the change takes effect, it's really important to ensure that everybody is aware of the changes. There's going to be a few, and it's going to sound scary on the offset, but once we get past it, it's not going to be a problem. So I would hope by now you've heard it, you've read about it, somebody's told you about the lawsuits that were filed against both the National Association of Realtors and pretty much every major broker, even minor brokers across the country. So these lawsuits were set by or filed by sellers. Actually, they're filed by greedy lawyers, but anyway, they were filed by sellers stating that they had no clue that they were paying a buyer agent compensation. So I don't know how that happens because I know, for as long as I can remember, our listing agreement says total commission, listing agent commission, buyer agent commission. But in this new world we live in, they ended up having to settle. And they are, I mean, all of these, there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on the table. So obviously, NAR said we're going to make some big changes to the way we do things. So um, there's actually a link in the bottom here that'll take you to a video from an MLS explaining the process, so I'm not just making this stuff up. But let's jump into it. So, previous process: if you're a buyer, well, if you're a seller, we would talk. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're going to sell your house. Here's the price. Here's my total commission, and then typically we would split half of that total with a buyer agent if they brought a buyer and we got a contract and closed. As a buyer, you know, we could look around for a while without signing a buyer broker agreement. But at some point, and in fact, some states it was mandatory, but at some point we would sign it. And usually, like with me, most of my clients signed it, closer or at offer. But that's how it worked, that we would do that. The commission was always displayed. So in the MLS, so when a seller said, we're going to do 6%, three for me, three for them, it's just, it could be any number, it doesn't matter. We would know. So and when I sat down with a buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here's the agreement. We talked, we went through everything, and I would put my commission in there, knowing that, it's in the MLS and we would work it out. We knew it was there. So offers were made, and everybody was above board and knew what was going on. Worked for a lot of years. Worked for 30, almost 30 years. So the new process. Buyers must now sign the buyer broker agreement before viewing any homes. That's probably the hardest part about this whole thing because, for a lot of my clients, their referrals or their past clients, friends, family members, they trust me. They know me already. They'll be. I think we can get most of the agreements signed right away. If it's a buyer that's coming off of a request for information, they're not going to understand this. So this is why I'm putting this video out. But we do not get a choice. I know our MLSs, if I don't do that, and if I don't have the buyer broker agreement before showing the home, and even if I get it afterwards, I'll be fined $5,000. And because I did it, my broker actually controls me, they're going to get fined $7,500. So you can imagine we're not going to just beat around the bush here. This is going to have to happen. So get back to the new process. We meet a buyer. Buyer says, okay, let's go. We sign the agreement. The MLS, as of the end of the month, will take out any information about buyer agent commission compensation. So we're not going to know going into the deal how much they're willing to pay. The way we do that is we request it in the offer. We've actually got a new, if you can see, says sample. I think they're releasing them this week. We have a new one called the Seller Compensation Addendum, which is included. So, an example, let's just say Mr. and Mrs. Buyer is 2.5%. We write an offer. On this, we put 2.5%. Done. If the seller, now the only caveat, and this has always been this way, But if the seller says, hey, no, I'm not paying it, then then it would fall on the buyer, like it always has, to pay that at closing or not purchase the home. You can certainly look for a different home. What they really wanted was to take it from a guaranteed, here's what it is, to everybody's negotiating everything, which in theory sounds good, but in practice, I think it's going to be super messy. So to keep this video a little bit shorter, guidance moving forward for sellers. You've always had the flexibility to decide how much you're going to pay a buyer's agent. So in this case, discuss with your agent what the best strategies moving forward might be. And I've got some interesting ideas that I think I'm pretty sure I'll be able to net my seller clients more money for their home. I'm happy to talk and meet with you about that. But make sure you understand, anyway, just understand what you're doing. And then for buyers, you know, don't be alarmed when an agent asks you to sign a buyer broker agreement. This practice has been, we've been doing it since the mid 90s. It's very effective. There's really I can't think of a downside to it. If you choose the right agent, you're getting a very professional agent that's going to work as hard as they can to get you the best deal you can get. So, and I guess in closing real quick, the biggest change that we have in this is the compensation is no longer shown in the MLS. It must be negotiated in the contract. I mean, there's a few other minor switches, well, the big switch is that we have to have that document before I can even open a door for you. But other than that, we're pretty much business as usual. So if your agent you're talking to is freaking out, well, maybe you got the wrong one. If you'd like to talk to me about strategies, whether you're a buyer or a seller, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So guys, enjoy your day. Look forward to helping you down the road.